Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. In this video, we will have our discussion on the certain alignments in our Vedic astrological chart which could indicate a life which is very much prone and vulnerable towards afflictions in the marriage. Now, when I say afflictions in the marriage, in this video, we will be taking up certain extreme kind of outcomes, like in those scenarios where either the prospects of marriage gets completely damaged or marriage gets delayed, or in extreme cases it gets completely denied. Now you must have got this idea that why a person like me who is always uploading videos on the positive content, why today I'm uploading video on this kind of yoga. So definitely friends, like initially I was thinking about uploading a video on the upcoming transit of the planet Venus, because Venus, which is right now in a combust zone, is about to enter its sign of debilitation as well. So then I realized that lately I have been uploading a lot many videos on the transit topics only. Let's have one video after a long time on some sort of case study as well. And I have already started working on the yearly prediction videos as well, which very soon, like in the month of October, I will start uploading that as well. So okay friends, to begin with, now just because here we will be talking about these kind of extreme outcomes. So what all are the houses which you have to give attention towards? So that's very simple. First of all, you have to give attention towards the dignity and the strength of your first house, because first house tells about your overall life. Now here, if we are talking about a life or like a marriage which is meant to go lot many extreme possibilities or outcomes, so it has to be seen in parallel, in sync with the overall foundation or overall theme or direction of the life of the native. I will explain you this concept in the form of different reference charts as well, different reference placements of the ascendant lord as well. But definitely friends, first house is something which you have to give attention. Then you have to look at the second house, because second house tells about that are you a family oriented person or not. Because what happens is that we only look at the surface picture and we try to judge or kind of impose everything from the society's point of view. But you have to first understand that whether this person by himself is meant to be acquiring happiness on the account of marriage or not. So all of those possibilities we get to know from the second house. Then comes the seventh house, which is the house of your marriage, of relationship. Then you have to look at the ninth house, because ninth house tells about your faith in the institution of the marriage. And also friends, individually you have to give attention towards the Libra sign as well, because many times we overlook the importance of the Libra. Like in the original Kalpurush Kundli, 7th house and the Libra energy are interconnected with each other. So these are the few things which you have to give attention towards in the Lagan chart. And definitely friends, once you will open up the D9 chart, then you have to look at the placement, specifically the placement of the from the D1 chart, the first house lord and the 7th house lord from the main ascendant chart. So first house and 7th house lord and their placement in the D9 chart, that is going to give you this indication or idea whether marriage is getting promised in the chart, in the life of the native or not. And if you will get this indication just looking at the main ascendant chart, that this is a case of a damaged marriage, delayed marriage or a denied marriage, so you can validate that via opening up the D9 chart as well. So okay friends, let's start our discussion. Now when I say that, just because I talked about different kind of reference charts which I will show you regarding the showing you the placement of the different lives of the different placement of the ascendant lord. So now as you can see over here in this first reference chart, now just because in this case the person has got a Aries Lagna and the ascendant lord planet Mars has gone to the 6th house. Now I always say this thing, just because in this case Mars has gone to the sign of its enemy and it is heavily afflicted, being placed in the 6th house. So that in itself tells about that this is a kind of a life which is very much driven towards the obstacles or concerns of health, or native might not be able to grow or prosper in the life because this life is very much inclined towards facing vicissitudes or challenges on the daily matters of the life. Like that is the only reason we say that your ascendant lord has to be in a strengthened state, so that your ascendant lord will work in the direction of giving you prosperity, rather than if the whole energy of the ascendant lord is going to be wasted or invested only in fighting the daily problems, then how you will be able to grow. And this is something which you have to validate, or you have to see it in tandem with what is happening in the matters of the 7th house or 7th house lord. Now along with this kind of placement, if native is going to have an afflicted 7th house or 7th house lord, or individually Libra sign, then you can definitely come to this conclusion that this is a case of either a damaged marriage or a delayed marriage or a denied marriage, the difference of which we will very soon discuss. Now friends, the second case is the ascendant lord is afflicted, being placed in the 8th house. Now try to understand this thing, that if 6th house tells about your problems, obstacles, 8th house is the actual house of suffering. The major difference over here is that 6th house connected problems, you can still understand it with a rational mind, but 8th house connected problems are so much karmic and esoteric and unusual in nature that you might keep on going through all sort of suffering without knowing the reason or source of all those problems or obstacles. Now friends, if you will see, now just because we have just discussed the 8th house, so does that mean that 8th house only has negative things to offer? So now over here in this case, as you can fairly see that this person has got a Sagittarius Lagna, ascendant lord planet Jupiter is exalted in the 8th house. That in itself tells about that with the divine refuge and wisdom, native will completely transform his or her life. And just because friends, 8th house also tells about your joint resources as well. So whether in the form of the wealth, wisdom, knowledge or finances, native will definitely gain through marriage. And now with this kind of alignment, it hardly matters that in which dignity or in which state 7th house lord is there in the chart. But just because native has got a strong divine karmic connection, some sort of sadhana which this person, this soul has done in the past lifetimes, native is definitely going to be have this resolution that he can carry on, or he can manage or counter any difficulty which might be coming out from the 7th house lord's dignity or placement in the chart. Now friends, the next example is, now see, now this is a case where as you can see that the ascendant lord being the planet Jupiter is very well placed in the 4th house. Now what does this tell about? This tells about that this is a life which is very much driven towards comforts, conveniences and happiness on the account of the domestic matters. Now with this kind of placement, first of all, 7th house lord, if you will find in a dignified state, native is gonna have a very good matrimonial life. Now even if you will find that in extreme cases, even if 7th house lord is heavily afflicted, then also native has got this potential and power to counter or fight with any of the problems which might arise on the matters of the marriage. Now friends, the next case is, because we have to talk about the 12th house as well. So now as you can see over here, now ascendant lord being very well placed in the 12th house. Now what does this tells about? That just because native's personality is very much attuned towards facing or handling the areas or matters of loss with gracefulness. So native knows even in these kind of circumstances that if 7th house lord is afflicted in the chart, how to gracefully handle those situations rather than completely going haywire. And as you can see friends, there couldn't be any better combination than your ascendant lord being exalted in the 9th house. That in itself tells about a very well divine protected life. It's like divine or the divinity or the gods are actually protecting and guarding all areas, all matters of your life. Now friends, coming back to our discussion. So now friends, when I say about the damaged marriage, so the two planets which could contribute heavily towards that are the planet Mars and Rahu. Now Mars is considered as the most inauspicious planet in order to face harmony in the concerns of the marriage. But when we talk about Mars denying a marriage or delaying the marriage, so Mars is a very impulsive planet. That is not what the domain of the planet Mars is. Mars can make you very impulsive, very lustful, lot many desires, lot many expectations, lot many logics in your head trying to control, but Mars cannot delay all those prospects. So that is the only reason that if your Mars is kind of in a very twisted or in a challenging placement in your chart, it is always advisable to get married after 28 years of age. So now friends, the first point was that whenever we talk about the concerns of the a damaged marriage, now this could be in any way, like a abusive partner or a cheating partner. This could be a very aggressive relationship or something like that. So now friends, try to understand this thing. Now there might be other supporting factors which you might have in your chart, like Jupiter might be aspecting it, or you might be living in a very traditional community. So irrespective of all the abuse, all the problems which you might be facing, the marriage is still intact, but you cannot call it a very right marriage or a very idealistic marriage. So because of which Rahu and Mars are the two planets, if you will find them in any way coming in the purview of the 7th house, like either they are placed in the 7th house, they are your 7th house is being ruled by the planet Mars, or your 7th house lord is conjunct with Mars, then Mars hold this potential or key to negatively afflict the matters of your marriage. Now moving ahead. Now friends, when we talk about the delayed marriage, now I always say this thing, see, a delayed marriage is not a problem. A lot many times I come across all these kind of consultation queries where people do not understand this thing, that see, there are two things in the life. One is like kind of yoga which is getting promised in your chart. Second thing is when it will fructify. So for that we always say this thing, that sometimes the delay also act as a blessing in our life, because either we are not ready, we are not mature, we are not responsible to handle those things, or the accountability or responsibilities which comes with the marriage. Now it hardly matters in which age you are getting married. Important is that if you are happy by yourself, you are ready, and then you are attracting a right partner in your life, then your life will be filled with all sort of happiness, rather than inviting a right person at a wrong time in your life. So definitely when we talk about from the perspective of the delayed marriage, so Saturn is the chief significator of that. Now in any way, either you will find Saturn is placed in the 7th house, Saturn is your 7th house lord, or Saturn is conjunct with the 7th house lord, or you are going through the Saturn dasha. So these are the kind of circumstances which could delay the prospects of the marriage happening in the right time. Now when I say right time, definitely it depends on the country, culture, era you are living in. In certain parts, getting married at 22, 24 is considered as the right age, and there are those countries where, like, even if you get married at late 30s or mid 30s, it is completely fine. And when I say right marriage or delayed marriage, here I'm talking more from the perspective of the mindset of the native. Now let's say for example, you are good looking, you are qualified, and you are financially independent as well, and irrespective of putting your heart and soul in the search for the right person, it is not taking place in your life. Now these are the kind of circumstances where if your life is right now, Saturn is in the driving seat, it can delay things, but always remember this thing, Saturn can delay, but Saturn never denies. And generally we say this thing, that a late marriage given by Saturn might have its due patience in store for you, but once you will accomplish, you will achieve, you will be very happy, you will be very grateful. So this is what the greatness of the planet Saturn is. Now friends, when we talk about the marriage getting completely denied, so now friends, over there generally notes like Rahu Ketu plays a very strong role over there. Like there are certain cases, like if you will find that the native has got Rahu or Ketu's excess in the 1st house or 7th house, either way, either Rahu is placed in the 1st house or Ketu is placed in the 1st house. Now when we are talking about a completely denied marriage, over there Ketu plays a most pivotal role. So a lot many times when Ketu is placed in the 7th house, then those circumstances can arise. Second thing is that your moon is a part of that. Now moon plays a very pivotal role. Now the alignment which I just mentioned, like your Rahu Ketu axis is in the 1st house, 7th house, and moon is conjunct with Ketu in the 7th house, or moon is not conjunct with Ketu in the 7th house, but moon is sitting in the nakshatra of the Ketu. So then also Ketu is going to have a strong edge in your life. Now friends, in these kind of circumstances, then you have to see what exactly is the picture you are getting from the D9 chart. Now let's say for example, after this alignment, the moment you will open up the D9 chart, and you will find that the 1st house and 7th house lord are also and again placed in the Dushtana Bhava, like 8th house, 12th house, or in any way Rahu and Ketu are a part of that, then we can say this thing that yes, this is a possibility or a case because of some esoteric or some sort of karmic reasons. A properly institutionalized marriage might not take place. And friends, as a consultant, as an astrologer as well, if a client is gonna visit to you, so your prime and at most important duty is that to first of all to instill faith and hope in the personality, in the life of the native. Second thing is that divine surrender becomes very important, because whenever nodes get strong, there is some sort of our own karma or destiny which is going to have a very strong say, which completely suppresses your free will. So rather than living your life with pessimism, being judgmental, any sort of inferiority complex, it is better to look at the brighter side of it, or completely surrender this area, this matter of your life to the hands of the divine. We always say this thing that in whichever house Ketu is placed, it completely kind of encrypts or hides the signification of that house. Ketu just kind of push its best energy to bow you down in the area of the life where it is going to be placed in the chart. It completely hides those signification. So this is something, friends, a kind of a combination which you have to see when you have to study a chart from the perspective of where a marriage is not at all getting promised, and you can only come to that conclusion if the overall look and feel of the chart is also very karmic. Like the way the few examples which I showed you, that for a Scorpio rising person, if Mars being the ascendant lord is placed in the 8th house, now ascendant lord going to 8th house is not a problem. Like for the Aries Lagna, if Mars is placed in the 8th house, for a Taurus Lagna, if let's say for example your ascendant lord is placed in the 6th house, that is not at all a problem. Concern is that once the ascendant lord has gone to the Dushtana Bhava, in which dignity it is placed over there. So these are the certain alignments or cases, friends, where you can come to these kind of three very extreme conclusion in the matters of the relationship or marriage. Now friends, a lot many times people also ask me this question that if I want to know about from which direction I will find my soulmate or my match or my partner. So now friends, for that, first of all, this kind of question becomes very strongly valid in those kind of traditions and communities where like either you are gonna go for arranged marriage, your family is gonna have a very strong say, or like there is a lot of emphasis and energy which goes towards finding one partner and standing by your marital vows. Like this is a kind of energy which do not get qualified for every time. Now here I'm not talking about live-in partners, or here I'm not talking about some sort of flings or something. So when we talk about the essence of your 7th house getting activated, so regarding that front, regarding that perspective, if you want to see the direction from where your partner is going to be coming in. So now friends, first of all, now it becomes very important that you have to come to that conclusion from the place where you are born. Now let's say for example, if you are someone like me, you are born in the New Delhi, India, and now I'm living in Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen now. So now it hardly matters that I'm living here. But when we talk about the 7th house related matters, it is the energy which is lying over there encrypted in my own natal chart. So we have to see somehow from our place of birth only whenever you have to calculate the directions. Now the concept for that is very simple. Now as you know that the first house which corresponds to the east direction, and the 10th house which represents the like south direction, and your 7th house which represents the west direction, your 4th house which represents the north direction. Same way friends, like all the fire signs like 159, Aries, Leo and Sagittarius, they also represents the fire energy. All the earth signs like Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, they represents the earth energy, or you can say that the south direction. Now comes the air signs like all the Gemini, Libra and the Aquarius. Now they represents the west direction, and the water signs like your Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces, so they represents the north direction. So now friends, all what you have to do is that you have to see in your main ascendant chart where the Venus is placed. So now in this kind of calculation, you do not have to take into consideration your 7th house lord. You have to see that in which house your Venus is placed, and from the Venus then you have to see that where the 7th house lord from the Venus's placement has gone. Then you can come to this conclusion that okay, relying on the house or the sign where the 7th house lord from your Venus's placement in the chart, over there you can find your partner. So again friends, I will give you a very simple example. Now the chart which we just studied. So over here friends, as you can see that in this reference chart, like a Sagittarius Lagna person, and Jupiter is over there in your 8th house. So now let's say for example, if in this case native has got the Venus to be placed in the 10th house, so that means from Venus's placement the 7th house is the where you will find the Pisces energy, and where the Pisces lord has gone. So the lord of the Pisces, which is the planet Jupiter, it has gone to the 8th house. So 8th house, it is placed in a water sign of Cancer. So then you can say that in the north direction, native can find his or her matrimonial proposal or the partner coming in from that direction. So this is something friends which I wanted to say as a part of my inputs on these 3 extreme possibilities in the cases of difficulties in the areas or matters of the marriage or relationship. So for further more updates and notifications on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. Dhanyavad.